Hi everybody, Tex-Mex here. Thanks for joining me for another video. Today I'm going to do an accuracy test or a precision test with my Rossi R92. This one is the carbine version, so it has the shorter barrel. I believe it's 16-inch, and it's chambered in 38 Special, 357 Magnum. I don't really shoot 38 Special much out of it. I mainly shoot 357, so that's what we're going to test today. Now, since I don't have all the specs for this particular rifle on hand, I'll go ahead and put them on screen now. That's a beautiful little rifle. This one's got the saddle ring. Obviously, unlike the original Winchesters, it also has a safety up here, but I just don't mess with that. It still has the half cock and the typical action of the originals, and it's a lot of fun to shoot. Personally, I'm very happy Rossi is making this particular model because it's one that I grew up with. My father had a Browning R92. Was that what it was? Well, it was the Browning version of the Winchester, and the same thing. It was a shorter barreled version in 357 Magnum, and unfortunately, on one of his hunts, somebody ended up stealing it. So it was a rifle I used a lot as a kid, and I always lamented its loss. I looked online at one point, well before my father's passing, because I wanted to replace it for him. But boy, they were really hard to find, and when I could find them, they were just amazingly expensive. So I ended up buying him something else, and just a few years ago, I bought this guy for myself, just as something to play with. It's not really a hunting rifle. This is going to be something that I'm going to shoot steel with, shoot targets with, maybe take with me in the truck as a truck gun. Rifle like this in 357, especially with 158 grain or heavier, is certainly enough gun to take down hogs and some other game. But honestly, this is just a fun rifle for me. But I wanted to see how well it grouped with a few different types of ammunition. So today I brought out 4 different types. I've got this Federal 357 mag. Let's see here, it's 158 grain. It's a jacketed soft point. I've got this Blazer 158 grain jacketed hollow point. I've got this Aguila semi-jacketed soft point, also 158 grain. And then this Fiocchi Defense Dynamics. It's a 158 grain. What kind of projectile is in this thing? Jacketed hollow point. So I'm not sure this would be the safest one to put in a tubular magazine. For 5 rounds today, I don't see it being a problem, but I'd have to research to see really whether or not this would be a safe one to shoot much out of a tubular magazine, because you always have to remember that you don't want the bullet behind your bullets in the tubular magazine to be resting on the primer, so that you don't have some sort of a discharge within your magazine and have a big kaboom while you're trying to have fun shooting. So I have some targets set up down there at 50 yards. Now, this rifle, I've never really sighted it in. I have made one video with it before where I compared it to the Henry, and I shot it at some steel, but I didn't check to see where I was hitting, and I wasn't shooting that far away. Those are relatively big targets, and I'm only at 50 yards, so I think I should be able to hopefully get them close enough to the bullseye that we can do a comparison of the different ammunitions. But who knows? We'll see. We'll see. That's what this is all about. But anyway, let me go ahead and get my target camera set up, and we'll start with the Blazer. Okay, let me get my ears on here. We're starting with the Blazer ammunition. I'm going to shoot 6 round groups of each type of ammo. Let's see how they do. I may have to adjust my sights after the first shots, but we'll see. Okay, fortunately, well, I do have a monocular here. Can't see where I'm hitting, but I want to put a few rounds down before I start even looking. Okay, that's 6 rounds. Let me go ahead and load up the next ammunition. Next, we're shooting the Federal American Eagle. 6 rounds as well. Now, one thing I will say is that my front bead at 50 yards for that larger target over there actually covers most of the black. Not the whole thing. Now, the way I'm shooting is I'm putting it right under the red bullseye, but just for reference, at that distance, that's how much your front sight covers the target. This should be 6. That's 6. Okie dokie. And next we'll set up for the Aguila. And now the Aguila. Let's see how that one does. Once again, 6 rounds at 50 yards. And that's 6 rounds. Okie doke. We'll set up for the final, the Fiocchi. Now we're finishing off with the Fiocchi. Let's see here. Now this is just a hollow point. So if you see the projectile, what it looks like, the bullet in this case. Honestly, I don't think I would carry this typically in a tubular magazine. I think I'm sort of risking it a little bit. I'm gonna shoot it because I'm fairly confident nothing's gonna happen. But for my viewers, I wouldn't recommend using a hollow point. Use jacketed soft point or semi-jacketed soft point, things of that sort. Just a lot less of a chance of anything bad happening as far as a potential round going off inside your tubular magazine, which would obviously be very catastrophic to your firearm and potentially to you. So let me go ahead and get these rounds off, and then we can see which did the best. One thing I can tell you is these seem to have the least amount of kick. Yeah, significantly less kick than the other ammunitions. It's supposed to be the same grain weight, so I assume that just means that they don't put as much powder in the casing. And 6. There we go. Boy, that was fun. Okay, let's go take a look at our target. And here we are at our target, and I'm very happy with the results. I haven't tried putting this rifle on paper. I've fired a few rounds out of it just on steel, but not many. I mean, I'd be surprised if I've put 60 rounds through it prior to this shoot here. Never adjusted the sight, so this is how it came from the factory. And at 50 yards, it seems to be relatively on target, relatively. So we started with it was the Blazer first. And yeah, I mean, it looked like it was almost on target. 3 of the rounds hitting close to or on the bullseye, and then 3 just out. Now, like I said, my front brass bead at that distance, if I were to put it on top of the sight, was covering almost all of the black. Not all of it, but close to it, certainly bigger than this white line here. So what I was doing is I was moving it down and just had the brass bead down here just underneath the bullseye. And that's how you're supposed to aim. At least that's my understanding of how you're supposed to aim. But it did well. And like I said, for iron sights at 50 yards, that's great. I mean, that's certainly good enough for hunting. The American Eagle, it's hard to say that one did a little better than the other. The spread, the full spread seems to be about the same, but this one seemed to have a tighter group over here. But still mostly on target, hitting a little more to the left. Now the Aguila hit even further to the left and a little further down. However, the group was much tighter. I like that group quite a bit. Yeah, it is a little further to the left. So if I were to sight it in for this particular ammo, I'd have to drift my sight a little bit. And then the Fiocchi, much lower. I think I commented as I was shooting it that it felt like it had less power than these ammunitions up here, and I think that is evidenced by how much further down it hits. But one thing I can show you here is these are all 158 grain 357 Magnum ammunitions. They have different styles of projectiles, but that shows you how even the same weight grain of ammo, different bullet styles will have different points of impacts. So you can't just shoot 158 grain, switch to a different type of ammo and think you're going to be hitting at the same place. I mean, for all intents and purposes, considering the distance, considering that, once again, that front bead was about this big, that's pretty good. Those are pretty good groupings. And, you know, if you're shooting at the shoulder of some hog or something, you're probably mostly on. Still, I would recommend find the ammunition you think you would shoot out of it the most. In this case, you know, I'd probably have to shoot a bit more. I wouldn't shoot the Fiocchi out of it, not just because it's a hollow point, but I think it's just underpowered. It would probably be one of these three. Right now, it looks like the Aguila's hitting the best, but I'd probably do this test 2 or 3 times just to make sure that the Aguila is the one giving me the tightest groups. And then I'd drift my sight over a little bit, and then I'm not sure I'd raise it. I'd probably raise it just a tidbit so it'd be dead on at 50 yards. And but really, the American Eagle and the Blazer did well. They all did well. If I had a scope on it, I'm sure I could really tighten these groups up quite a bit, but I am not scoping this rifle. This one I'm keeping as is. I have it in a nice rifle scabbard that I can stick on a saddle if I wanted to, or tie to the side of an ATV or something of that sort. And that way you just have a quick, handy rifle that you can take quick shots off with at closer distances. But once again, a lot of fun. 357 out of these is fun. 38 Special is a lot of fun too. It's very soft shooting with 38 Special. But since I will most likely be using 357 out of it, that's why I wanted to see where it was hitting at 50 yards. And honestly, it's almost exactly where I want it to be. So as always, I thank you for watching. This was a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed watching the video as much as I enjoyed shooting that Rossi 92. Take care, stay safe, and I will see you in the next video.